Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Joanne. You are on my channel. I hope you're doing awesome today. So we have been looking at a court case in Australia between a very highly decorated soldier and the media. And he's suing him for defamation. And the media, in their defense, pleaded truth and proceeded to indicate why they had pleaded truth. And in there was some horrific stories. So there's lots of documents here filed, so we're trying to get through them all. So the next document that was filed is an interlocutory application. So what is an interlocutory application? I'm glad you asked. So it's an application for the other party or for the court to perform something before the trial. They require the court approval and help to ensure that it happens. So it's just they want something to happen before it comes to trial. So this is 4 pages long. So this is to the applicant in the Commonwealth of Australia. The respondents apply for the interlocutory orders set out in this application. The court will hear this application, will make orders for the conduct to proceed. So this is what the respondents want. Pursuant to Section 37 AF of the Federal Court of Australia Act 1976, and on the grounds referred to in S37 AG 1, B and C of the Act, there is to be no disclosure of information that identifies or tends to identify persons referred to in the confidential annexure to the defence statement of claim as person 1 to person 16 inclusive. So again, they also do not want to disclose person 17 either. There is to be no disclosure of the information that identifies or tends to identify the person referred to in the confidential annexure to the defence statement as person 17. Pursuant to 37 AF of the Act and on the grounds referred to in 37 AG 1 and 2 and 3, that no person may publish or cause to be published the confidential annexure of the defence statement of claim. Orders 1, 2 and 3 do not prevent disclosures to and between the following people: the judges, the court staff, the parties, the legal representation, the witnesses, Commonwealth ministers, the Secretary of the Department of Defence, officers of the Department of Defence, judicial officers and any of the court staff. Orders 1, 2 and 3 may apply until further notice, such order until the court sees fit. Now, so what they're saying is that they don't want to identify or have anything that identifies these people. However, that in the judge may know, the parties may know, but they don't want anyone else to know. So it's really just protecting it. So this ensures that there is that disclosure there, which I think is fair. I can't see there being a problem with that. So that's that one. So then we've got this affidavit now. It gets more and more interesting. So this is a 13-page affidavit. Okay, so this was filed on the 11th of the 10th, 2018. So as I said, so it's at the federal court stamp. So every document that's filed has a stamp on it. This is what I have found really baffling or really interesting about the stuff to do in the US. There's no stamp. Everything is stamped. Even if it's electronic, it has to be stamped. This is an affidavit of Gregory Charles Bilden, Headquarters Joint Operations Command, Bungadore, New South Wales, Deputy Chief of Joint Operations. And without scrolling down, I'm going to assume that there's going to be lots of redacted stuff. So remember, everything that is redacted has been redacted by the court because it is personal or confidential in nature, which is only natural. So I am the Deputy Chief of Joint Operations for the Australian Defence Force. I entered the Military College in 1983, graduated to the Royal Australian Artillery Regiment in 1986. I've had numerous command and staff appointments, including Deputy Commanding General United States Army Pacific. My operational experience includes service as the Deputy Chief of Staff for Secretary Sector Reform on Headquarters Regional Command South, Afghanistan in 2008, I have held the position of DC JOPS. So that's the DCJOPS since 19th of May 2017. In this role, I support the Chief of Joint Operations Command, CJ Ops, exercise command of ADF Joint Operations, direct command units, and assigned forces in the planning and conduct of campaigns, operations, joint exercises, and other activities directed by the Chief of Defence Force on behalf of CJ Ops. I'm accountable for the management and my mitigation of operational risks, and I execute defence response options through the development of contingency and operational plans. In conjunction with CJ Ops, I have overall command responsibility for the management of sensitive information related to the ADF's operational activities, consistent with Australia's national security interests, which includes preparing operational security of both ADF capability and its people. Throughout my service in the ADF, I have obtained extensive experience in and understanding of the threats faced by ADF personnel in conducting military operations in terms of both the potential danger to the ADF personnel and the risk to the successful conduct of missions. This affidavit is based on my personal knowledge and where indicated on belief, where statements in this affidavit are based on my belief as to certain matters rather than the personal knowledge of these matters. I have been informed of the relevant background to these matters, and I am satisfied there is sound basis for my belief. Now, the other thing that you notice, so while I talk about affidavits, every page of the affidavit in Australia has to have two signatures. One is the person signing the affidavit, and two is the person that witnesses the affidavit. So you have to actually, although you swear the affidavit, you have to literally go through in their presence and sign every page. I would have liked to have seen Mr. Brown have to have 200 pages witnessed. They're not necessarily, there's a reason. So quite often they're short because you don't have to sit and have to sign 200 pages. Anyway, let's get back to it. I have seen a document titled Defence's Statement of Claim, the Respondent's Defence, which I'm informed has been filed by the respondents in the federal court proceedings, NSD 1485/2018, between Ben Robert Smith and Fairfax Media, publication and others. I'm informed and I believe that similar documents have been filed by respondents in relation to proceedings between, so you've got the Age and the Federal Capital Press of Australia and others. This affidavit is intended to be relied upon in support of the Commonwealth's interlocutory application filed in each of the three proceedings. Where I refer to a paragraph number of the respondent's defence below, I'm referring to the paragraph number in the respondent's defence under the heading Particulars of Truth, which are displayed in the respondent's defence in parenthesis. I've reviewed the content of the respondent's defence and I consider it contains information that is sensitive to the ADF, the manner in which it conducts its operational activities on behalf of the Australian Government and the personnel that comprise of the ADF Special Operations capability. Later in my affidavit, I explain why, in my view, it is necessary in the interests of Australia's defence and security aspects of the manner in which the ADF conducted its operational activities in Afghanistan to be protected by public disclosure. I also explain why, in my view, it is necessary in the interests of the safety of the named persons and their families and the security and the defence of Australia that information which would tend to identify them is protected by public disclosure. I seek an interim non-disclosure order to be highlighted over the highlighted portions of this affidavit pending the outcome of the Commonwealth substantive application. I shall arrange for a redacted version of this affidavit to be filed with the unredacted version served upon the parties. I prepared this affidavit on the basis that it could be made available to the parties and the court. In doing so, I have avoided the inclusion of highly sensitive information, which would cause this affidavit to be highly classified, which would give rise to numerous restrictions regarding its handling and storage. and disclosure. As noted throughout this affidavit, there is further classified information to which I have had regard when reaching the conclusions I have described. If necessary, I am prepared to swear a further but confidential affidavit to address such matters. So he's saying a lot of the stuff is very highly sensitive. He doesn't want to give out, so he's prepared a redacted copy, and he is prepared to give more information and if needed be, but it's got to be confident. And don't forget that if we're going into highly sensitive and matters, then we got national security risks, because this is a public interest case, which the media is going to be reporting on. So there's lots at stake here. So here we go. In this affidavit, I describe various risks to Australia's defence and security. These risks are not capable of precise quantification, but rather large matters of professional military judgment, an assessment having regard to a large number of potential variables. Where I have made an assessment of risk in this affidavit, I have had regard to both the likelihood of a particular outcome and the gravity of the consequences of that outcome. In some cases, the likelihood of a particular outcome may not be high. However, in circumstances where the potential risks include loss of life, the reduction in our military effectiveness, and the weakening of Australia's national security efforts more generally, I consider that any material increase in the likelihood of that occurring should be avoided wherever possible. For reasons explained below, I believe that the public disclosure of information detailing the tactics, techniques, and procedures used by special operations personnel in the conduct of military operations and identifying information in relation to the personnel would give rise to a real risk of detriment to Australia's defence and security, and of harm to special operations personnel and their families, and those who assist us in operations such as partner forces and interpreters. When assessing whether disclosure of information could cause damage to Australia's defence and national security, it is also necessary to have regard to what is referred to as a mosaic analysis. This is a process by which individual, often seemingly innocuous, pieces of information from multiple sources are collated and considered collectively in a way that reveals a complete picture of a sensitive nature. Thus, the public disclosure of an individual piece of information, which may not of itself appear to be detrimental, may nevertheless be of significance to a threat element that is applying a mosaic analysis. So far, at the moment, he's just explaining why he is being careful with the information. It can be difficult, if not impossible, to quantify the likelihood that public disclosure of a specific piece of information will contribute to a successful and harmful application of mosaic analysis. This is because it is not possible to know precisely what other information may be available to the person or entity conducting that analysis. This is particularly the case in the circumstances where the mosaic analysis may be conducted by persons who are capable of employing sophisticated information gathering and analytical tactics, and/or it is unknown the extent to which such persons possess the other tiles in the mosaic. Accordingly, when considering the possible public disclosure of information relating to military capabilities, it is necessary, in my view, to consider whether that information is capable of meaningfully contributing to an understanding by threat elements of Australia's intelligence and military activities. If it is, and if that increased understanding could be exploited to the real detriment of Australia's defence and security, or put at risk the lives of Australian personnel or former personnel and others, then that information ought to be protected from disclosure. For the above reasons, the absence of an immediate threat of direct and identifiable harm does not mean that the public disclosure of a previously confidential piece of information would not endanger ADF members, and in particular special operations personnel or former personnel, or to cause damage to Australia's defence and security. The ADF Special Forces provide special operations capability to assist the Australian Government in protecting Australia's national interests both domestically and internationally. It provides unique and highly specialised capabilities which permit the Australian Government to prepare for and respond to a broad range of domestic and offshore national security issues. The operational flexibility provided by the special force element of a kind that can undertake sensitive operations across the operational spectrum is critical to Australia's military capability. Special forces are also critical to Australia's capacity to operate as a member of the coalition forces, including many of Australia's long-standing allies. In ongoing or future operations, if anything were to diminish Australia's capacity to contribute to these multilateral operations, including by limiting Australia's ability to carry out its military responsibilities, it would potentially have a prejudicial effect on Australia's relationship with key allies and therefore prejudice Australia's national security and defence more generally. In addition to the overseas activities, special forces also provide critical support to Australian government in a range of other national security activities that are vital to the government's protection of Australia's national security. The very nature of these activities is highly sensitive, therefore I do not describe them in this unclassified affidavit. Australia's Special Forces members are under the command of Special Operations Command, SOCOMD. It's comprised of a number of units which collectively describe the Special Forces. When there is a requirement for Special Forces to undertake a military operation, they're generally force assigned to CJ Ops. By force assignment, I mean responsibility for the command and control of these forces is transferred to CJ Ops for the duration of their operational activity. As Deputy Commander, I assist CJ Ops in the command and control of the ADF's operational activities, including operations undertaken by Special Forces. So now he's going to address the conduct of the ADF operational activities in Afghanistan. Operation Slipper was the name of the operation for the ADF's contribute to the international coalition undertaking action to combat threat posed by terrorism in Afghanistan. The operation commenced following the events of 11 September 2001 with deployment of Special Forces task force groups to Afghanistan from around October 2001 to December 2003, and then again for most of the period between September 2005 to December 2013. A small number of Special Operations personnel remained deployed in Afghanistan as part of Australia's ongoing commitment. The principal objective of Operation Slipper was to enable the Afghan government to provide effective security across the country and to develop the Afghan security forces. Combating the insurgency in Afghanistan was complex due to the number of armed groups, including the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Combating the Afghan insurgency was complex, difficult, and dangerous mission. The Afghan insurgents employed a combination of stand-off attacks, high-profile attacks, targeted assassinations, improvised explosive devices, and indirect fire attacks. The insurgents proved to be an adaptable and ruthless army. Their attacks were often carefully planned, unpredicted, and brutal. 41 ADF members were killed in insurgent attacks during Operation Slipper. 20 of these fatalities were Special Armed Forces. That's pretty horrific, isn't it? That during that 41 Australians, as of this affidavit, 41 Australians had died, were killed during these operations. Operation Slipper ended in 2014 when the decision was made by the Australian government to support the NATO-led train, advise and assist mission called Resolute Support, which replaced the previous NATO-led International Security Assistance Force mission. The current ADF operation in support of NATO's Resolute Support mission is Operation High Road. The role of the ADF troops has effectively now changed from conducting offensive operations to advising and assisting Afghan forces in their efforts to combat Afghan insurgency. And then we've got a whole pile of redacted stuff. In addition to the specific protection that is sought in respect of redacted, I also consider the information below in the respondent's defence raises concerns in respect of the public release of operational sensitive information regarding sensitive special operations. The name of the member of the Afghan partner force with whom the ADF was partnered in operations in 2012, referred to in the respondent's defence as Person 12. Disclosure of true identity of Person 12 would enable potential identification of the Afghan officer who cooperated with the coalition special forces of Afghanistan. This information would potentially expose Person 12 to danger in Afghanistan by demonstrating that the ADF does not or cannot protect identities of personnel with whom we conduct partner operations. We would prejudice our ability to conduct operations like this in the future. The name, so remember he's asking that these names are protected. The name of the individual referred to in the respondent's defence as Person 13, who supported the ADF in the conduct of its operations in Afghanistan as an interpreter. While I accept it would be difficult to specifically identify the actual individual who supported the ADF patrol during the activity alleged in the respondent's defence, the name of that individual, when connected to the date and location of the activity, could enable the constructive identification of the person who was the interpreter and potentially expose that individual to danger in Afghanistan. Further public release of the name would demonstrate the ADF does not or cannot protect the identities of the people, the personnel whom it engages as interpreters to support the conduct of tactical operations. This could prejudice the ADF's ability to engage interpreters for these type of activities in the future. As explained above, the former personnel referred to the respondent's defence and below as persons 1 to 11, 14 to 16 currently serve or did previously serve with the SOCOMD forces. SOCOMD provides special operations capability to assist the Australian government in protecting Australia's national interests both domestically and internationally. These are unique to and highly specialised capabilities which permit the Australian government to handle a broad range of domestic and offshore security issues. At the heart of these capabilities is the careful selection and advanced training of a small number of ADF personnel. The investment in creating and sustaining the special capability is high, and the flexibility and the effect of those capabilities is such it could not be replicated in any other way. For these reasons, the ADF is particularly concerned to maintain the confidentiality of the SOCOMD personnel capabilities and operations in a way which does not apply to conventional military forces in operation. The ADF goes to considerable lengths to ensure the identities of the SOCOMD personnel remain confidential. Such personnel have consistently been afforded protected identity status under relevant ADF procedures and directives. In accordance with these requirements, the identities of the personnel are protected from disclosure to the public unless specifically authorised. SOCOMD personnel are instructed to take precautions to minimise the scope for disclosure of their identities, addresses, and so forth. They are also instructed to protect any details revealing their involvement in special forces from the disclosure where possible. One example is that even when recognised with honours and awards, SOCOMD personnel are, with few exceptions, anonymised, I can't even say it, in public announcements. In my view, the protected identity status of SOCOMD personnel, including the personnel named in the confidential annexure to the respondent's defence, is necessary in order to minimise the risk to them and their families, minimise the risk that they will be exploited to obtain sensitive information, and minimise scarce operational resources to ADF. I consider each of these matters in turn below. Now he's going to say why it's needed. So I consider that SOCOMD personnel and their families are likely to be particularly attractive targets for attacks and exploitations. There are a number of reasons for this. It is well known that SOCOMD personnel play a vital role in Australia's whole of government response to target violent extremism, while the specific nature of their activities is kept confidential. The fact that they have a significant role in these areas is not. In more recent conflicts, particularly in Afghanistan and Iraq, SOCOMD personnel have been responsible for the capture or killing of a significant number of high-level extremists. As a result, sympathisers of those extremists and or Those who oppose Australia's involvement in this conflict may seek to target Special Forces personnel, in particular for retribution. As SOCOMD and personnel with known operational service in particular are known to be a vital part of Australia's counter-terrorism apparatus, they are more likely to be targeted as a means of directly undermining the effectiveness of our counter-terrorism activities. Although within Australia, such incidences are fortunately limited to date, I believe this is more likely a result of the steps that have been taken by the ADF to protect its personnel and their families rather than a lack of threats. In saying this, I noticed the general experiences in this area. The identities of the SOCOMD personnel killed in Afghanistan are generally made known to the public. However, this is usually done by the ADF with the family's consent in order to prevent them from being the subject of ongoing approaches by the media. The families of 3 of those deceased personnel have been harassed and intimidated by phone calls from extremists and threatened with violence. In one case, a letter of this kind was hand-delivered to the family at the funeral itself. And with Australia, convicted and suspected terrorists have targeted Holsworthy Barracks. This is a base which is publicly known to house SOCOMD personnel, although the presence of those personnel is not known to have been a motivation for targeting. By virtue of their position, SOCOMD personnel have an understanding of and access to a range of sensitive security-related information. This makes them a target for a range of threat elements which may wish to obtain such information. This means by which this targeting could be carried out is varied. For the reasons explained above, I do not provide details of the nature of the sensitive information to which SOCOMD personnel have access, the specific elements which they may seek to access such information, or the means by which the various threat elements may target SOCOMD personnel. However, these considerations are such that were the identity of the personnel to be revealed, I believe there would be a real risk to the sensitive capabilities and information may be disclosed to the prejudice of Australia's defence and security. For so long as the identities of such personnel remain protected from public disclosure, I believe it is more difficult for threat elements to effectively target them. SOCOMD personnel and the members outlined above comprise of a select pool of ADF members with necessary skills and experience to be engaged in a range of high-risk operations. They undergo specialist training unique to their unit, which can take more than 18 months to complete. Additionally, SOCOMD personnel have performed these duties for some time, acquire a skill set and experience which is not able to be replicated by simply conducting further recruiting or training. In this case, the personnel referred to in this affidavit as currently serving or previously serving SOCOMD personnel have obtained skill sets of this kind. SOCOMD personnel also perform confidential functions for the Australian government. For the reasons explained in paragraph 21 above, I do not describe what these functions are in this affidavit. However, I am able to say that if the identities of SOCOMD personnel were to be publicly disclosed, they would no longer be able to perform these important functions. I have been informed that notwithstanding the protected identity status, the names of the particular SOCOMD personnel have occasionally been publicly disclosed. In some cases, this has been done without the wishes, against the wishes of the personnel and the SOCOMD. In those cases, steps have been taken within the SOCOMD to ensure the safety of these personnel and their families. There have been exceptional circumstances when conscious decision was made by the ADF to publicly disclose the identities of the SOCOMD personnel in recognition of their contribution and awards. An example is that of Trooper Donaldson upon awarding to him the Victorian Cross in 2009. This is equally applicable to the applicant, Mr. Ben Robert Smith, following awarding him of the Victoria Cross in 2011. Despite the exceptional and significant nature of these awards, the decision to publicly release their names was not made lightly. It was made by senior leadership with the specific agreement of those personnel, and after careful consideration of the potential risks and consequences of such disclosure. In those instances, significant care has been taken to consider and ensure the ongoing safety of those personnel and their families. The information that is contained in the respondent's defence, along with its confidential annexure, that I consider identifies SOCOMD personnel, and my belief as to why this is the case is set out below. The person of interest named in respondent's defence are as follows. The person identified as person 1 on pages 8, 9 and 10 of respondent's defence and named in the confidential annexure is a current serving member of the SOCOMD. I have been shown a copy of the Australian Defence Organisation service record for this member, which confirms that that member is currently posted to an SOCOMD unit. Person 2 on pages 8 and 9 is a currently serving member of the ADF and a former member of the SOCOMD. I've been shown a copy of the service record. It confirms that this member is currently posted as a full-time member of the ADF. And despite being posted to a non-SOCOMD unit, I believe his identification poses the same personal security concerns as apply with respect to current serving personnel. This person identified as person 3 on page 10 of the respondent's defence and named in the confidential annexure is a former member of the SOCOMD. I have been shown a copy of the service record for this member, which confirms that this member was previously posted to SOCOMD unit, although this member is now an active Army Reserve member that is no longer fulfilling a full-time or part-time role within SOCOMD. I believe that his identification poses the same personal security risks. So person 4 saying is a current service member. So he's currently a serving member of the SOCOMD. And the record shows that he's currently posted to a SOCOMD. Person 5 is a former member of the SOCOMD. Although this member now has been discharged from the ADF, I believe that his identification as a former special operations operator exposes him to the same security risks. Person 6 on page 12 is a current serving member of the SOCOMD, and that confirms the service record confirms that that member is currently posted to an SOCOMD. Person 7 is a current serving member of the SOCOMD. It's in the service record for that member, which confirms that currently posted to an SOCOMD. Person 8 is a former member of the SOCOMD. The member has now been discharged from the ADF. Believes that there's a security risk. Person 9 on page 4 is currently a serving member of the SOCOMD, currently posted to a unit. Person 10, former member of the SOCOMD, although member has been discharged. Person 11 on page 19 is is currently serving member of the SOCOMD, posted to a unit. Person 14 on page 20 is currently serving. The service record there. Person 15 is currently serving as a member of the SOCOMD, as shown by the service record. Person 16 is a former member of the SOCOMD. Although this member is now an active Army Reserve member, no longer fulfilling a role within SOCOMD, I believe his identification poses the same personal safety as in respect. I believe the safety and security risks described are real and applicable to, as well as the identification to the individuals identified as person 1 to 16 of the respondent's defence and named in the confidential annexure. The disclosures of the names of persons 1 to 11, 14 to 16 in connection with their positions or former positions in the ATF at the time in question could provide a valuable tale from mosaic analysis which may result in a threat element confidently concluding that they are members or former members of special forces. For example, They may have other information that the person matching the member's name description is a member of SOCOMD, knowing the location of SOCOMD units and the member's current city of residence, and the publication of the members' names in connections with these proceedings will complete that picture. For reasons explained above, while the risk is difficult to quantify, the consequences of it if eventuating are significantly serious in terms of risk to the safety of personnel and their families, as well as the risks to operational security of SOCOMD, that the risks should be avoided. For the reasons set out in paragraph 35 above, I respectfully request that the court also order that there be no disclosures of names of the member of the Afghan partner force, person 12, and the interpreter who supported the ADF conduct of its role in Afghanistan, person 13. There we go. So it was all about why these people needed to be protected. So this was the Commonwealth of Australia. So the government wanted to protect all the people's names as well. So, and then his affidavit was in support of that as to why they needed it done. So now we've got some more here. So, so again, we've got more redacted. So we're going to find a lot of redacted stuff. See how long this one is. Oh, this one's 170 pages. Remember how I said they're usually short? Well, this one turned me into a lie, didn't it? A lot of them are just annexes. So this is Dean Aaron Leverton, solicitor. So he's a lawyer with Minter Ellison, and he's a solicitor for respondents. Subject to supervision of Peter Bartlett, the supervising partner. Unless otherwise stated, the facts in this affidavit are matters within my knowledge, is in support of the respondent's application for orders set out in the interlocutory application filed the 9th of October. So this supports the one. So order 2 of the seeks a suppression order in relation to the identity of the person referred to in the defence filed on the 9th of October 2018 as person 17. The order is sought on the ground that it is necessary to protect the safety of person 17 and her family. I am informed by person 17. So if you remember, person 17 is the person that claimed that he DA'd. There was, DV. So from about the 13th of October to the 5th of April 2018, the applicant engaged in an extramarital affair. And on March 28, 2018, the applicant committed an act of domestic violence against her by punching her in the eye. On February 2027, 2012, Yummy Steins, presenter of Channel 10's television program The Circle, made comments about the applicant, which in substance questioned the applicant's intelligence. Following those comments, Ms. Steins received vitriolic attacks from members of the public who supported the applicant for making those comments about the applicant's intelligence. A bunch of documents which I have located on the internet evidencing and referring to those attacks were exhibited to me at the time, affirming of this affidavit and marked DL1. This bundle is comprised of the following documents. An article dated the 6th of March 2012 titled Vicious Circle, Death Threats Against Yumi as Advertisers Flee, published on the website news.com.au, which states that Channel 10 was forced to censor the Circle's Facebook page following extreme comments directed at Yumi Steins following threats against her children. An article dated the 28th of February 2012 entitled Circle Slammed Over Hero Soldier Insults, published on the website thecourier.com.au, in which Francis Butcher, the relative of another war veteran, joined many viewers in calling to Steins and Negus to be fired, stating that their comments are disgusting, bird-brained, and an insult to the ADF. So that's page 6 of the annexure. An article dated 1st of March 2012 entitled Ben Robert Smith Accepts Apology from Steins Negus, published on the website tvtonight.com.au, includes the following comments section. Yummy is dumber than a slouch hat, and Negus is just trying to be down with the cool kids. And the comments, the Circle was so small-minded and attention-seeking. Why does this ridiculous show still exist? It is not even poking fun at him. It was far below the dignity of these people like niggers to do this. Comments published on the website, ozmilitary.com, a post entitled "A Brief from Corporal Ben Roberts" included who the beep is Yummy Steins and who the beep is the Circle. I've been out the loop for so long. All this crap is new to me. Should I really give it? Either way, I'd like to see that mole say anything to either Ben or his missus in person. Could she be any more naive? Can we assume Yumi Steins is smart because she doesn't look as though she spends her time in the gym? This idiot won't be remembered by anyone this time next year. Who would be stupid enough to employ again? I hadn't even heard her name once before she brought this situation down upon herself. Then comments on YouTube, Sky News. If you read Yummy Skank's Twitter, she's actually a mouthy skank. We hate you, Yummy Slimes. Yummy Steins would never have apologized without being forced to by the network. She's so insecure. She's probably the one who is a dad-root, extremely jealous, takes over the mind of people like her. My guess is she would just about do anything to be well known in the public. Only one or trying to row a boat. Look in the mirror, half-cast. She clearly doesn't respect. I hate false forced apologies. To me, they are as offensive as the initial comment. What a beep. It's obvious she's jealous of his body and her husband is a... she needs to find her brain. She's a twit. Yummy should be tied to those weight discs and dropped in the deep end. What a silly, self-centered beep. Put her on the... she's so un-Australian. A Facebook page entitled Yummy Stein's brain found at the bottom of the pool alongside George's Viagra, which was created in response to the comments on the Circle. A post on this Facebook page on 2nd of April 2013 by Tom Strays states, I never knew she had a brain that could get lost. I think this site is going to give her too much credit. I am informed of the matters set out in paragraphs 10 to 14 below by Chris Masters and believe them to be true. In or about October 2017, a book authored by Mr. Masters entitled No Frontline was published. An article about Mr. Masters' book was published on the Australian's website 20th of October 2017, entitled No Frontline, an explosive account of death in Afghanistan. A copy of that article was exhibited to me at the time of affirming this affidavit. On the 21st of October 2017, article entitled VC Winner Ben Roberts-Smith Speaks Out was published on the website morningmail.org, outlining Robert Smith's response to Chris Masters' book, No Frontline. A copy of that article was exhibited to me at the time of affirming this affidavit and marked DL3. The comment section attached to that article includes the following. To dance in the blood of our fallen heroes is a trait of a true coward and exhibits personal character deficiencies and lack of judgment. To perform this dance on the public stage in front of a slain hero's family and for personal profits such as Chris Masters is appalling, abhorrent, unrestrained. Shame, Chris Masters, shame. I'm incensed by this despicable act. My loathing of cowards like Masters is unspeakable. Masters, to me, is the lowest form of pond life, to try and make money out of soldiers, their wives, and family sacrifice, to denigrate those that put their lives on the line so that scum like Masters can feel safe is about as low as you can go. It's not journalism, it's beep. On the 20th of October 2017, Mr. Masters received an email. It's got an address there. A copy of that email exhibited to me. So they've put that, so it's DL4. In or about November 2017, a letter was sent to News Corp in response to the article marked DL2 and subsequently provided to Mr. Masters, which made threats against Mr. Masters. A copy of the letter was exhibited to me at the time of the affidavit and DL5. I'm informed the matters set out in paragraphs 17 to 20 below by Nick McKenzie and believe them to be true. At the bottom of the online articles that are the subject of the claim, this matter, readers are able to contact Mr. McKenzie for the purposes of providing confidential tip-offs on an encrypted app called Whisply. On 12th of August 2018, Mr. McKenzie received a message on Whisply with the subject line something which states, "You are a... I bet you are a ever have been in the military, how many have you taken out in arsenal? I bet your father's proud of you. A copy of that message is exhibited. On the 11th of August 2018, Mr. Mackenzie received a message on Sably from Tony W. Oink Blake, which states, "And worthless, never put boots on." A copy of that message is exhibited to me at the time, DL7. On 8th of June 2018, Mr. Mackenzie received a message on Sably from BPU, which was titled, "Every beep politically correct do-gooder." A copy of that message was exhibited at the time. On the 12th of August, Mr. Mackenzie received an email sent from Ben Smith 74, which was also sent to David Rowe, which stated, "Your character assassination of Ben Robert Smith receives nothing short of shameful and such gutted journalism. The reason why the SMH is going broke and why Channel 9 will scrape your vile cesspool of a newspaper. The offence of treason and capital punishment should be brought back so you can swing. You gutless cretins should be attacking our enemies, not our brave soldiers who protect you at night. I hope karma brings you death and disease to you." A copy of that email was exhibited at the time of affirming this affidavit. Following the publication of matters complained of in these proceedings, there have been negative and threatening comments made about the respondents in various websites. Annexed to this affidavit and marked DL10 is a bundle of material evidence and referring to these comments, which comprised of A, the following comments in response to the article "Beneath the Bravery of Our Most Decorated Soldier," which was first published on the website, 10th of August 2018, then shared on Facebook. On the 10th, at a time when we desperately need heroes, this investigative journalist is spending time tearing down from the comfort of his own office chair. I don't think journalism could stoop any lower. Clearly, I was wrong. The following in response to the article "Beneath the Bravery of Our Most Decorated Soldier," first published on the website SMH on the 10th of August 2018, then shared on Twitter by Guns in Australia at 8:14 on the 10th of August. Another SMH left-wing loony article that purports sensationalist allegations without substance against a decorated Victoria Cross recipient after the fact. A blog post dated 10th of August 2018 titled "Fairfax Hatchet Job on Ben Robert Smith VC MG," published on the website Michael Smith News. This hatchet job courtesy of the newly minted 9 Fairfax smear merchant. Comments of this post included Fairfax ABC and nothing but anti-Australian pieces of you-know-what. Australian media is at its lowest for many years. Blog post dated 11th of August 2018 titled Brendan Nelson, brilliant on Ben Roberts VC MG. Well done, Brendan, lest we forget. Published on the website Michael Smith News. Includes a comment. The grubs currently to blacken Robert Smith's reputation are the same sort of vile prostitutes who want to see the likes of cowardly accused child molesting rapist as our next Prime Minister. False facts might find a merger of their firm with the sewage treatment works and altogether more mutually compatible marriage. False facts should have stuck with what they do best, pumping up the tyres of those exemplary heroes of the Labour movement. Therefore, Labour movement throwing left-hard mud and lies at the man who's won a Victoria Cross is different battle with different species entirely. Comments on an article dated the 18th of August 2018. Frustration at looking on led to making hero Ben Robert Smith, published on the website The Australian. Include, I'm sure Nick Mackenzie and Chris Masters know better, having exhibited such heroism, bravery, self-sacrifice during multiple tours, shining their office seats in central Melbourne. It's just a murder trying to get a decent espresso there. Mr. Chris Masters, in my opinion, he's the most overrated journalist working in the language. Chris Masters is an evil purveyor of fake news. Chris Masters makes terrible judgment calls. It would not be the first time he tries to break journalistic ground by hacking at people who do an honest day work for the sake of the country. A comment on an article dated the 18th of August 2018 entitled, "I'm 100% behind him. Widow of decorated SAS soldier comes to the defence of Victoria Cross recipient Ben Robert Smith after he denies allegations of war crimes and domestic violence," published on the website dailymail.co.uk, states if the media, all of them, can get a headline out of taking a person down, they will. Gutless does not come close to the description of them. Comments on an article on the 18th of September 2018 entitled ABC in Fairfax Pursuit of Ben Robert Smith Malicious, published on website morningmail.org, include, "With those lying bunches of scum, investigative reporters who hold malice are plenty for soldiers and the electorate in general. Decorated soldier attacked by journalistic scum. There is a lot more skullduggery than being generated by false facts and their brain-dead scribblers. Shameful and disgraceful, the media are nothing but sewer rats." The following comments in response to the article, "Police clear VC hero Ben Roberts of domestic violence claim," which was first published on the website The Australian on the 25th of September 2018, then shared on Facebook by Dallas Beaufort on his personal Facebook page at 2:54 a.m. on the 25th of September. "Sue the beep off the... make sure each and every one of these scrubs can afford to even buy a cup of coffee for the rest of their slimy lives. Sue them and kill them. Fairfax media, journalists and judges. Oh, those treasonable politicians. They've totally ruined our country. They all need a blindfold and a last cigarette. Accusations made by faceless people with absolutely nil evidence other than accusations to muddy waters for their own twisted and evil agenda." Annexed to this affidavit, marked DL11, is a bundle of material posted online about person 17, which comprised of the following comments in response to the article, "Police clear Ben Roberts after allegations of assault." From the Courier Mail, "Name the woman who accused him and attempted to ruin his life. Oh, sorry, I forgot the media thrives on women who accuse men of these things, and are instantly believed without evidence or due diligence by a court. Then the person who falsely accused him should be charged." The following comments in response to war hero cleared of violence are from The Australian on the 26th of September 2018, then shared on Facebook at 7:02 on the 26th of September 2018 by the Facebook page Survive to Thrive. Should be jailed then. A Facebook post published by Liam Sherry on his personal page on the 26th of September in relation to the Australian article War Hero Cleared of Violence, in which Liam Cherry made the following comment: "Now jail the scum who accused this hero, ran stories on this BS. Who didn't automatically back him?" The following comments in response to the article, "Police clear VC Ben Robert Smith of domestic violence claim," which was first published on the website The Australian on the 25th of September 2018, and then referred to on Facebook by Dallas Beaufort on his personal Facebook page at 2:54 a.m. on the 25th of September 2018. "If you are going to accuse someone of an incident, do it within 24 hours. Have your proof. Unlawful sex, straight to hospital, not years later, where there is no proof. To me, it is sour grapes, but mostly greed and revenge. Not sorry for them. So are the police going to use the law and charge the so-called unnamed persons for willful and wrongful allegations? It's about time people who make vexatious claims need to be charged. Money-grabbing slag." Wow. So this is about threatening letters now to the to a member of the Special Forces. On 14th of June 2018, the Defence Department released a statement which confirmed that a member of the Special Forces received a threatening letter in the mail relating to his giving evidence to the Defence Inspector General inquiry into the allegations of misconduct and war crimes by Australian soldiers in Afghanistan. A copy of the Defence Department statement was exhibited to me at the time of affirming this affidavit, marked DR12. On 6th of September 2018, Nathan Long, the AFP National Media and Social Media Manager, wrote an email to Nick McKenzie confirming that the AFP received a referral from the Department of Defence on the 15th of June 2018 in relation to the threatening letter sent to a member of the Special Forces, and that the AFP was assessing a referral. A copy of that email was exhibited to me at the time of affirming the affidavit. The identity of this letter of the sender sending the threat has not been identified to me. So again, so now we're into the annexures. So this is the bundle of documents. So with every bundle, so with every annexure, they actually have to be signed. So you have your signature and the witness's signature on the page. So that's the newspaper article. So they've got all the newspaper articles here that they've been talking about. And then they've got here, they've highlighted this. So the ones that they've identified, they've highlighted here. Yeah. So yeah, so they've just put circles around the ones that they've mentioned. But there's 170 pages on this. Right, so what? It's very interesting, isn't it? So now we've got people saying, or people that spoke out against the decorated hero. We've got court documents saying that they've been intimidated and abused, getting death threats. You know, it's really quite scary, isn't it? So this is another annexure. This is DL3. As I said, each one has, so if you refer to, it just makes it easier. So if they want to refer to something in an annexure, they can just go, you know, it's got a cover page. Again, they've highlighted it. They've highlighted some of the worst ones. Okay, so this is DL4. This is the email. Who the F do you think you are? I've never read even one of your books, but to even remotely try and put the world's best elite soldiers in any spotlight other than the heroes that they are, you must be scum. Scrape together any controversy to sell a headline, or you must be a idiot to pay off these blokes whose job is to covert missions behind enemy lines. Haha. If I was you, don't walk down any dark alleys, and I think it's supposed to be I'd watch that spineless back of yours too, Scott. I don't know if Scott is. I don't know if Scott's the sender or if Scott's the. This is an email to News Corp. I just want a copy of the letter sent to News Corp. All right, so this was the letter that they received. Many loyal Australians. It's handwritten. Here's the copy on this the email, the whisper, the messages. This is bundled material throwing threatening comments about threatening comments posted about the respondents on various websites. Now we've got different scouring social media. So what are you thinking now? You've seen the puzzle pieces are getting put back, getting put together. So we've got a decorated soldier. My understanding is that he was not happy. He's not happy that he was named after all of it. And there was a small group. There was an investigation going on with the Australians' SAS forces in Afghanistan. I don't know whether it's finished or whether it's still going on. But this is playing on so this has been going since 2018. We're in 2020. We're in 2021, and we're still nowhere near it, even coming near it by the looks of it. So these defamation cases are going to go on for a long, long time. And so the media is coming out to say that it's truth. So they're out to prove that what they're saying is true, which means they have to actually prove, they're going to have to show that he's done all of that stuff. Truth. And he's going to have to prove that he did it. Here we go. So this is all of, but that's that widow. That says, this is the article. It says, it's launched defamation proceedings against Fairfax. Articles published portray him as an inhumane murderer and a bully. He also was working at 7 West Media. I think I did read just recently that that he stepped down from his role at 7 Media for the moment while this plays out, because it could be perceived as a conflict of interest. Because how can he be working for a media organisation that needs to report on this case? So, because if they don't report on it, they will deem it to be that, it could be perceived to be some type of bias. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about this and they do this. So and it's interesting how particularly with the everyone's protecting, no one's come out to defend the journalists. They're all because he's got a Victoria Cross, and he's a hero. But do we put too much emphasis on our heroes, do we forget that they are, do we forget that they're just human and they have failures as well? I have no idea how this case is going. I just really want to ask questions and get what you think from what you've seen. So this is an article from a lawyer. This is the lawyer saying, well, hang on a minute, they've taken we're getting a lot of heat for this. And don't forget, I mean, what's interesting, there hasn't been anything about to confirm or deny the affair so far in the documentations. But don't forget, he would have got to respond to this. But I'm just looking for, we'll see what's next. So remember, this affidavit was to protect person 17. They don't want the person's name to get out. And to do that, they're showing the hate that has been directed at them online and saying if the person's name got out, that it would be horrifying for her. And so you've got the defence force saying we've got to protect the personnel for security reasons. Now we've got to protect person 17 because look at what's being said about her, and protect, everybody else. So this is a copy of the Defence Department statement. So this is unclassified. We confirmed that, yes, they did have something happen. So this is the copy of the email from the AFP, unclassified. And again, they redact. So regarding Sergeant B, that's from the AFP. So, everything is in code. All right. So that's that one. And so this is affidavit of B. Okay. All we know is person B is a student. And they've even taken out the signature. So student. So Yumi is an Australian television radio presenter and author. I make this affidavit in support of Fairfax Media application to protect the identity of a woman I have been informed is referred to but not named in the defence filed by Fairfax Media. On the 27th of February 2012, presented on the TV's The Circle, made a sarcastic remark about Ben Roberts-Smith and later asked her co-host George Negus to clarify his earlier comment regarding the sexual prowess of bodybuilder-type men in general. Following making a remark, Yumi received threats of violence and vitriolic comments from members of the public. The grounds of these concerns are set out below. In the period after remarks about Mr. Ben Roberts, there was what I would describe a deluge of hate on social media from members of the public, including former military personnel and military sympathisers. There we go. The social media campaign against Yumi was most intense and consuming between the 27th of February 2012 and the 14th of March 2012. In the course of the social media campaign against Yumi during this period, I read several very aggressive comments, including incitements to violence and death threats towards her. One of the Facebook pages that I monitor closely was the page The Circle, which my observation was created to generate and contain negative sentiment towards Yumi and her colleagues at The Circle so that the show would be cancelled. A bundle of documents contained in the increments and threats that I read on the The Circle Facebook page are attached to this affidavit marked MB1. Those documents describe a Facebook bar, back to the detention centre for Yummy, ha ha ha, suck, now send it to Afghanistan. Great, does that mean I can spit in George Negus and Yumi's face now? Yumi should replace the Queen at the closing ceremony at the Olympics, put her in the helicopter, make her jump without a parachute. Absolute tool. I can see her in the street. If I see her in the street, I'll tell her. Yumi Steins was the inevitable downfall of that already struggling show. All it took was a little time. If you want a show to fail, employ an irrelevant piece of arrogant trash. You can guarantee that your days will be numbered. About time. Now, to make it all better, someone needs to slap Yumi in the face. A Facebook post published by Access Circle on April 2nd, 2012 include the following comment: delete the scum who work on that show. A Facebook post published on Access Circle 19th of March 2012 included the following comment by support of the Facebook page: yes, keep it up, people. These scrubs need to be punished for their disrespectful way they have treated our armed forces. March the 8th, I say send Yumi to Afghanistan in the front line, get her in a firefight. In fact, put her through getting captured, then see what opinion she has then. Problem is the network would probably film it in the studio and dramatize an unresearched load of BS. Includes the following comment from the 7th of March. Are these idiots still live on air? Die on the sword, hopefully latter for the pointless program. On the 7th of March included a supporter. So this is still Access Circle, so no petrol bombs. Facebook post published by Access Circle, 6th of March 2012. Off with her head, I say, metaphorically speaking, of course. Are those crumbs as well with the show should be axed? A Facebook post published by Access Circle on its Facebook page, 6th of March, which includes the following comment by supporter. Just think if things got really bad, she may need someone like Ben to protect her and her family. A Facebook post published by Access Circle on its Facebook page, on 5th of March. Maybe Yumi should dive in the pool and look for her brains. P.S. Don't let her catch a breath. Till the circle is gone, no more Yumi or George. I promise to get tickets and spit on them on air. Don't care if I get arrested. Either Channel 10, but I invite Channel 7 and 9 to have a look. Post from Access Circle, March 2. All you little out there that don't support the actions of this page, do us a favour, go grab Yumi and go jump in front of a train. These are nice people. A Facebook post published by Access Circle on the 1st of March. I'll settle for sliced wrists. I'll settle for petrol bombing the set. I think we need to get a couple of things straight. First of all, it wasn't an apology. The dumb was keen to change the subject first chance she got about getting hitched. And people were on here hooking into each other. Well, that's bound to happen when there's way over 5,000 people putting their 2 cents worth. Well, here's my 2 cents worth. Yumi's a complete, as we know now. Let's keep on track and smash Channel 10 till they her off. As for that George N, let's hope he stays hidden under that rock he's been hiding under. As soon as he pops his disrespecting mug, he will smash him till he retires from show biz like he should have done years ago. Now that's what I think. Burn the wretched witch. Wow. What a mole rat. Just give me 5 minutes with the toad. And then she will need to wipe some real tears. Disgusting, disgraceful, ungrateful. Go die. Patiently waits for an SASR hit squad to come one day. Putrid scum as she is, should let the boys run a tank over the mole. On the 1st of March, the Facebook page. Can we petrol bomb the set? A Facebook post on the Access Circle. Use a machete on yourself. That's good. We won't have to bring in our own machete. A machete won't stop a sniper bullet. Hope she uses the machete on herself, hey. The real question is, does she have a good plastic surgeon? Her face already looks busted up enough as it is. A Facebook post published by Access Circle on its Facebook page, 29th of February. Send there to Afghanistan as target practice. Around the 7th of March 2012, the Herald Sun published an editorial calling for online campaign against Yumi to end. A copy of that article was exhibited to me at the time of affirming this affidavit. We've got redacted. In February and March 2012, the social media directed towards Yumi was the most intense. She was employed by Channel 10 as a presenter in the program called Circle. So we've got redacted. Look at that. So that's all been redacted. So a lot of that's been redacted. All right. So now we've got all the stuff on here. It's pretty yuck, eh? I don't even remember I don't even remember what. I mean, I can't remember the Circle being on TV, that show, but then I didn't watch morning. I think it was a morning TV show. Is what I think. I don't remember. So yeah, so there we go. Lots of time for a Circle ceasefire. So this was the Herald Sun article. Okay, we might leave person 17 for my next one because I think that's a lot to take in. So what are you thinking? Are you starting to get a picture? Are you starting to get a picture of what's going on here? Because it's what we've discovered is that this is just becoming really, really messy. This seems becoming really messy. Lots of people are now getting involved and implicated. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you again soon.